Nathan here with Back to the Frame Rate, here to tell you about an upcoming event that not only are we ecstatic about, but we think you'll be too. We're about to reach our 100th episode, and we want to celebrate it with our friends and fans. So come on out to the Back to the Frame Rate 100th episode spectacular, where we're screening the 1999 sci-fi comedy classic Galaxy Quest, followed by the actual recording of our 100th podcast in front of you, a live studio audience where we'll have a ton of fun talking about the film, but the most important aspect is you. We need you there to share your opinions, your stories, and your questions so that you are part of the podcast recording and thus part of podcast history. This is a completely free event. All ages are welcome. We've got special guests lined up, prizes to give out, and free popcorn, snacks, and water. So come on down Friday night, January 10th, 6 to 10 p.m. at the Weston Art and Innovation Center in Weston, Massachusetts. Geek out with us and make our 100th episode one to remember.
In the dying embers of human existence, as the asteroid, a behemoth the size of Texas, hurtles relentlessly toward Earth, the world braces for an apocalyptic end. Deep beneath the bunker, a refuge plunges into the bowels of the earth. Here the chosen gather, their purpose clear, to preserve the very soul of our civilization. The 35 and 70 millimeter prints that encapsulate the magic, the emotion, and the dreams of generations past. These masterpieces, each frame a testament to the human spirit, are carefully cataloged and cradled in the cavernous confines of the bunker. Perhaps there was room for more, for friends and family yearning for salvation, but sacrifices must be made. The movie nerds stand united, the keepers of a flame, promising a future where the art of storytelling endures, transcending the boundaries of time and space. God help us all.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Join us as we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms, deliberating on whether each one is worthy of salvation or destined for destruction in the face of the impending asteroid apocalypse. You can find more episodes of this podcast on backtotheframerate.com, where you can subscribe and share our show and find us on our socials at Back to the Frame Rate. I am Nathan Shore, and accompanying me are the extraordinary movie mavens, Brianna Butterworth and Sam Cole.
Oh, hello.
Always a pleasure.
Hello, Sam. Hello, B.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, we are back with a brand new retrospective series, Noirvember. We're in November.
Woo!
I don't know how this happened,
Me neither.
but here we are.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Yeah. But this is exciting. We did this a year ago with our 80s neo-noir retrospective, which was a lot of fun. We are going back a full decade into our 70s hard-boiled detective noir. Not just that, but we're really in like the new Hollywood era as well. Kind of like maybe toward the cusp of the, when it was transitioning into, we're in the mid-70s. So yeah, this is exciting. I'm really excited.
Big transition time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But how is everybody doing tonight? We're going to get into the movie in a moment, but I just want to check in with everybody. Feeling good? New month?
I'm feeling
well.
good. Yeah. I'm really excited for this, for Noirvember. You guys know I love Noirvember almost as much as I love Horror Movie October.
And I'm going to try to keep my focus on this. What I have never really shared on this podcast, it might be new to you guys. I'm a huge baseball fan, and my boys are down 3-0 in the World Series right now. I'm a Yankees fan, and that might be blasphemous living in New England, but I'm just praying that they can get back into the series. I'm kind of watching this on my phone as we do this. I never thought this would be an elimination game tonight, but by the time this episode airs, one way or another, the World Series will be ending, because we record almost a week before episode comes out. But we'll see what happens. But they're down 2-1 right now, so in the third inning. For all you people keeping track at home, which is
I can't believe I didn't know that you hated New England. I can't believe I didn't know that you hated Boston. I can't believe I didn't know you were godless and had terrible taste. What's that like?
But the thing is, I grew up in Connecticut, so I was right on the border.
So you grew up in New England?
Well, the thing is, I grew up right on the line. So I grew up a Yankees fan, but also a Boston Celtics fan and a New England Patriots fan. So I grew up with a lot of championships.
Miss me with this libertarian bullshit. You just say bad taste in baseball.
I just been reigned with championships my whole life. So I'm not complaining. Anyways.
Nathan, in order to stop the angry hordes of New Englanders, I'll help rescue you and divert the topic for a moment. But I'm curious if you've chosen your next director of the 5 deceased directors that you were looking at for your next viewership. I was wondering if you'd made a decision on that.
No, I haven't. And you're probably asking me 1 week too early. I was trying to get through. We're recording this still in October. And we're a couple of days before Halloween, even though this is coming out in November. And I'm squeezing in a few more horror films before the end of the month. And I'm close to making a decision. The ones that I mentioned in the last episode, was it last week or the week before, are probably down to those 5.
Okay.
I'm thinking somebody that doesn't have a very long filmography. By the way, this is kind of interesting. I mentioned this a while ago. I'm actually still in a director's retrospective that I've been taking a really slow walk through. I've been going through Russ Meyer's filmography, which has been kind of interesting. And it's not something that I've been advertising on the podcast, but I'm up to 1970 in his, and it's been a month since I've seen the last one of his, and we're starting to get to the really dirty, raunchy movies now. Mm-hmm. So I got to wait until, later.
So you've done Beyond, right? You've done Beyond 70 or 69.
Yeah. I'm up to 1970. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, I think, is a movie or two away.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's a fun filmography.
I think Vixen was one of the last couple that I saw.
Awesome.
So yeah, they're campy fun, and it's something I've thought about checking out at some point, and I'm just taking the opportunity. These are all over the place. They're on Daily Motion. They're on YouTube. They're just like all these weird places on the internet you can find these movies.
I love it.
So, yeah.
I think that's awesome. He has some really fun movies. We'll have to compare notes. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill is actually one of my favorite films. I think it's a really solid movie. And I think that might have been one that I had to run home and watch right after seeing Drive-Away Dolls, because I was so disappointed.
You were like, I just need a better movie. I need to wash the taste of Drive-Away Dolls out of my mouth.
So, yeah.
Name a movie this year more disappointing than Drive-Away Dolls. It's up there for me.
It is. Bike Riders.
Yeah, I was disappointed in that one.
Close second. But
I'd like to rewatch that one, knowing more about it now. I think I went in with totally different expectations. So
I will probably revisit something. Can I share one other story before we get into this? And
sure.
We don't share a lot of personal stuff at the top of the show, but this is hysterical and kind of scary. I do drive a Jeep Wrangler. I got about a year and a half ago, and about 3 weeks ago, I learned about a recall on it. And I only found out about this because my dad told me, like, did you hear about the Jeep Wrangler recall? And I have a hybrid Jeep. And I said, I didn't hear anything about it. In fact, I have like Jeep app that I get on my phone. I said, I don't even get anything on there either. So I was kind of dismissive about it, but I did call my dealership and I asked about this. Do I have one? And I had to give them my VIN number. And they said, yes, you do have a recall on this. And it has to do with the battery cells. They said, please, you cannot charge your battery, because if you do, it could catch fire, and that could lead to
fire.
Fire and death. I'm like, okay, I won't charge my battery. When is this going to get repaired? Well, we don't have the parts for it. It could be just a tad longer. We'll call you when it's ready. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, it's been about 3 weeks. And I'm like, and I was talking to my wife about this. It's been kind of a long time, and I'm not getting the benefit of having a hybrid vehicle. So I'm like, maybe there's some sort of, I doubt they're not going to do anything for me. But so anyways, I call back the dealership again, and I say, I haven't gotten a call or anything about scheduling my recall maintenance. And like, what first of all, there's no part to repair it. It's a software upgrade, and we don't know when that's going to happen, but call customer service because they have more information about this. And that's the main Jeep customer service number. I call them. I'm on hold for 20 minutes. I'm driving to work at the time. So I'm on 95 North, heading up to work. I finally get somebody from Jeep on the phone, and they say, well, it's a software upgrade that we don't know how to do yet, but it's going to happen sometime in Q4 this year. But sir, are you driving your Jeep right now? I'm like, yes. We highly advise you stop right now and do not drive a Jeep any longer, because it's not just recharging your Jeep, plugging it in. The battery cells actually applies to it. They could melt down and catch fire at any time. We are going to call you back either today or tomorrow and give you another car. That's how serious this is. So like, I'm on my way to work right now. I'm like, so I shouldn't be driving it right now. Like, no, sir.
Oh my God.
Like, pull over and hitchhike home.
Oh my God.
This is so yeah. Jeep people.
So I drive a 94, a YJ Jeep, and I'm just saying, no problems with the 94.
This only applies to 23, 24, like the hybrid models.
Yeah, benefit to driving an older car.
So yeah, I'm driving a death trap. Yeah.
It's still spooky season for now.
So yeah, happy Halloween, people. A week late, but anyways, that's my life. Wonderful.
That's crazy, Nathan. I'm glad you're okay.
Why don't we get to what people probably tuned in for? Not to hear about my Jeep woes, but we watched Night Moves this week, and I have a plot synopsis.
Wow,
one plot synopsis.
Plot synopsises.
I'm going to read one of them.
Okay.
If I can find it here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always find the plot synopsis. Here it is. Los Angeles private investigator Harry Mosby is hired by a client to find her runaway teenage daughter. Mosby tracks down the daughter only to stumble upon something much more intriguing and sinister. Dun, dun, dun. I have a little clip.
Really sums it up.
The trailer from Night Moves from 1975, directed by Arthur Penn.
Well, I think Harry would like me to leave.
Well, I don't think that's necessary.
I think Harry thinks it is.
Harry thinks if you call him Harry one more time, he's going to make you eat that cat. Gene Hackman is Harry Mosby.
Hello, Harry.
In Night Moves.
Well, come on, take a swing at me, Harry, the way Sam Spade would.
He's a private investigator.
My daughter, Deli. Would you believe Delilah? Well, she's gone.
How long gone?
2 weeks. Go find her.
Making a living.
Well, it's a $125 a day and legitimate expenses.
From other people's lives.
You can get cheaper.
Can I get better? You're hired.
Making a mess of his own.
God, you're really prime, Ellen. You know that? I catch you screwing another guy and you attack my lifestyle!
Your lifestyle has nothing to do with it!
Night Moves. It's a mystery.
I love the trailer.
I like just the 70 bop.
Yeah. Imagine if trailers today just had a narrator still telling us what was going on.
I wish. That was a good time. Now we just have... I went to go see, I can't remember. I went to the movies with Tom recently. I don't remember what we were going to see. But there were so many trailers that just had a classic rock song in a minor key. And I was like, I'm going to lose my mind if we don't get over this trend soon. Like, we're going to look back on this trend the way we look back on the narrator. It's so tired. It's so tired. We have to move on as a culture. Mm-hmm. It's time for a new kind of trailer.
I Couldn't agree more. Yep.
Oh God, poor Elton John. Like his catalog's exhausted. Just.
Yep. So Night Moves from Arthur Penn. I thought I was more familiar with Arthur Penn. I mean, he's done a couple big movies. Bonnie and Clyde was huge game changer in '67. Little Big Man, I think I've seen, but I don't remember much about it. And the movie that I know that I have seen, and I saw it probably a few times, is The Miracle Worker from 62. I've seen a couple times, but he's a name that just, I know that I recognize the name immediately, but I thought he had done more like recognizable work in this decade in the 60s and 70s, but I was surprised there weren't more films that jumped out at me.
There's a lot of films of his that I have not seen either, including The Missouri Breaks with Jack Nicholson and Marlon Brando. Looks interesting. I saw a few clips, but I have not seen the film.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I've seen Alice's Restaurant. That's one that's come up. And same, The Miracle Worker. But that was it before this.
Nope. You haven't seen Bonnie and Clyde?
Oh, I have. Okay. Yeah. I've seen the big ones.
I also want to see, I believe it's called The Chase, looked interesting.
Is The Chase the same remake that was done in the 90s? Is that with Charlie Sheen, or am I thinking of something else?
I think there was that comedy with Charlie Sheen in the 90s. I think that just might be a same title, like a complete coincidence, but I don't think the two films have anything to do with each other. They might, but I think The Chase by Arthur Penn is a Western bank robbery type situation. Not entirely sure.
All right. Other notable people involved in this the screenwriter was Alan Sharp. I really wasn't too familiar with him. Cinematographer Bruce Surtees. And composer, the guy that did the music for this, did a lot of work. Clute, movie we're going to be doing next week. Parallax View, Stepford Wives, Marathon Man. He was really in the 70s paranoia film set. And Jaws the Revenge.
Classic.
Exactly.
Classic.
Let's just go over the cast here for a moment here. We got Gene Hackman, Susan Clark. The women in this movie, I think the actresses are, incredible. Susan Clark, Jennifer Warren plays Paula, Janet Ward, Arlene Iverson, and the supporting cast.
Amazing.
Edward Binns plays Joey Ziegler. John Crawford plays Tom Iverson. Melanie Griffith.
Didn't even recognize her.
Nope. And a very young James Woods that I just shocked me that he was in this playing Quentin. I love James Woods in this. So yeah, really cool. Jennifer Warren, though. I want to go back to Jennifer Warren for 1 second. I just want to make one point about this. I was trying to figure out where I've seen her in other things. I thought she was fantastic in this. She didn't make a lot of movies, and not many that I think were recognizable, but she was known for launching the Alliance of Women Directors, which was a nonprofit organization dedicated to increasing the number of women and gender non-binary directors working in the entertainment industry. And there's a whole bunch of information on this. So yeah, it's really cool what she did. Because she retired from acting, I think in the late 80s or early 90s to produce and launch this nonprofit organization. So that's really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yep. I couldn't find any box office information on this movie at all.
But, you're kidding.
But what I did read anecdotally that it was not considered a financial success, but it came out on June 11th, 1975 in New York. That is a hell of a week to open, because who knows what opened a week later that dominated the rest of the summer.
Some movie about a shark, the name of which I can't recall.
I don't know.
I was wondering if that was it.
Some guy. Yeah. Any other thought? I know we have any other facts or anything that I'm trying to think of.
Just an amusing antic. Just, Nathan, with your childhood love of Ghostbusters 2, every time I saw Harris Yulin in a scene, I kept thinking of his line. I think he played a judge in the courtroom in Ghostbusters 2, and he was like, "Oh my God, it's the Scoleri brothers," people that he put away. So that kept distracting me in scenes that he was generally doing a dramatically good job in Night Moves.
I like him. The limp that he has in this movie was real. I read a piece of trivia on this. He really was using a cane. That was not part of his performance. That was really, he was really injured, I guess, prior to shooting. And
shit.
Yeah. And Arthur Penn just said, use it. Yeah. That's part of your character.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's time to get into our deep dive into this film.
Yeah. So it's 1975. It's 4 years after Gene Hackman starred in The French Connection, which I think broke everyone. And it's a shockingly amazing time in his career right now. In the context of neo-noir, we have The Long Goodbye. We have Altman's The Long Goodbye, 72, 73. We have Chinatown, 74. And then we have Night Moves, 75. And
it's the Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
It really is.
I mean, I'll just get off my chest. You hear about those first two, deservedly. Mm-hmm. You don't hear about Night Moves. And everything, I really love this movie. I'll just get that out now. I thought this movie was very close to impeccable. And it's just so underrepresented in the canon. But I also just think we're at it's the right place. It's the right time. It's the right director. It's the right star. Everything is coming together for this movie to work. And it's sort of this slouching attitude that Hollywood has, that it's shrugging off the noir of old and possibly sighing and saying goodbye to this genre. It's breathing its last breath here. And I think it's really beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know if you mean like the noir of the early 70s or if you're talking about like classic noir.
Like classic noir. I think these characters are very much a response. When I watched this, I thought of The Big Sleep. It's really on the nose, but you watch the ending, I think every neo-noir answers to The Maltese Falcon, and a lot of noirs too, right? But you see the protagonist response to those characters and how that's turned on its head and how they usurp your expectations for what this character, what his capabilities are, what he cares about, what his direction is, how he's treated by the people in his life, and how he treats the people in his life. Yeah. This is, in the early 70s, Hollywood is having a response to the generation before it. And it is this long goodbye. It's this exit of the genre. And the neo-noirs that we did last year, that wasn't this. Right. That was a new era. This is kind of the end of an era.
Yeah. I love what you just said. And to piggyback off of that, and I'll circle back to my other point later on, but there's a line of dialogue that I think encapsulates your point. That is, I think it's Arlene, the woman that Harry visits early on, where he says something like, are you the type of detective who once you get on a case, nothing can get you off of it? Bribes, beatings, the allure of a woman's body. And Harry says, that was the old days before we had a union. Exactly. And not only is he putting, Arlene in her place, this film is telling us that this is not going to be another Chinatown. This is not your father's film noir. He does not operate like classic investigators. He's no Philip Marlowe and definitely no Sam Spade, which is referenced later on as well. But what's interesting is that Harry, unlike those aforementioned detectives who are, classic noir heroes, and, they are street smart. Harry lets his personal feelings guide him, and he kind of lacks the hard-boiled edge and becomes gutted by the betrayals, making him vulnerable and ultimately leading to his undoing in this movie. I find him a fascinating character. It's a really character study of him and how in his downfall.
I think he's incredibly apathetic and self-destructive. And I think he is probably not a very good detective.
No.
We learn a lot about him early on, where his wife is saying, essentially, why are you still doing this? Why are you in this business? We get an impression, we're told right away that anything he finds in this investigation is told to him through the relationships that he either builds or destroys. He is not finding anything out for himself, which was really frustrating for us in Crimson Peak, but is really an incredible character study here in Night Moves. He's really just down this path of destruction and sort of letting, like you said, letting his emotions guide him from one step to the next until this really tragic ending.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, even finding out about his wife's affair, which happens very early on, that's an accident, right? He didn't really mean to do that. So
yeah.
It's telling.
I don't know if Sam, if you had any comment on that. I want to mention something about that interaction with his wife and I think it's Marty, but I think Harry he's really a man-child in this, which is, I found him to be fascinating.
Sam, what did you think?
I do think he paid the price emotionally for the moment when he chose to go to the movie theater, because initially, as he'd referenced earlier, he was planning not to go. And in going, he discovered pain that he would not have discovered had he not gone. So that may have shielded him for a bit, but the delayed pain may have come out worse in a future situation, and it may have exploded in his face later on. So I felt that in a sense, it was good that he found out what was going on. And I think his performance and Susan Clark's performance, he played Harry Mosby, she played Ellen Mosby. I think they are very realistic people in what seems to be a very realistic marriage. And I somewhat related to his approach with not going to her and instead going to the person that she was having an affair with. I thought his pain seemed very realistic and kind of universal, in a sense that a lot of men would act that way throughout the ages. So to me, that made him more human.
Yeah.
His relationship, it just in general with women in this movie is kind of interesting. There's, I was about to say, the scene where he confronts his wife in Marty's apartment. Harry, he is like the child, and Marty and his wife, or Ellen, are almost like the parents. The way he acts around them, he sneaks into their apartment like he's like a child, like going into the parents' bedroom. He turns up the radio, he causes the commotion, and it's like what a child would do to get attention from his parents. And this is how they act around him. And there's another scene early on in the movie where when he does learn his wife is cheating on him. The way he reacts, he's held up in his room upstairs, turns on the TV, and he's acting like a whiny kid. And to punctuate the scene, his wife asked him if he wants some hot cocoa. You want some hot cocoa to wipe away the tears? It's everyone the women treat him like a child. He acts like a child. So it's a really fascinating character study of him. But the only time he kind of acts like an adult and treats someone as if they're not his mom is when he has an interaction with the deli character.
But what I think makes it interesting, because there's plenty of examples of, for lack of a better term here, man-child in cinema. I don't think it totally crosses into that line for the Hackman character because the movie doesn't celebrate that. The movie doesn't say that
it's not
behavior.
Looking at it, no,
and he's not rewarded for that behavior. Like, to the credit of the women,
ingrained. It's just ingrained in him.
I think it's really the apathy. It's I'm just going to shut everything down, and I'm not going to. The fight scenes in this movie are so intense and incredible. But to the credit of the writers, the women in this movie do not really let him get away with that ever. You know, when he's confronted by his wife, that's an adult conversation. Like, hey, you turned me off, you turned away, you walked. What was I supposed to do? Why didn't you handle this better? The women aren't enabling that behavior, and that behavior doesn't ever get him to the next step, which I thought was great. And I think it lends itself to having to expose different parts of his character.
I think his apathy is also an emotional shield. I don't think he's
Yes.
actually apathetic in the sense that he feels nothing. I think he uses it to protect himself and protect his vulnerability. And I think that we see this early on, and it's established early in the screenplay, what he's like emotionally as a person. And he thinks emotionally when working on the case. So whether he's going to Florida or he's going back to Florida, yes, it is partially based on logic and evidence, but it's mostly based on his emotional desire. I have to find out what's going on. I can't believe they lied to me. I have to go find this out now. And to your point, Nathan, about his childlike behavior, he gets up to the emotional point, but he does not necessarily have a follow through. So he will go to a situation because he's experiencing the emotion of it, but he has not necessarily thought through what is going to happen, what that implies, putting himself in these situations. And he encounters some very dangerous situations throughout the picture in which he's almost killed several times.
Yeah. And I think you're leading right into kind of what the plot is here and what his drawbacks are as a character is that he's not a good detective, and he gets himself way in and over his head. And I think there's a lot of analogies to the game of chess that's in here, and of course the title. But he is not seeing the clues right in front of him. And I after I saw this movie, I have to share the story here, because I watched this movie about 5 days ago. I was utterly confused with a lot of the machinations and a lot of the mechanics of what was going on in this. I watched it a second time a day later, and eureka. It really took that second viewing to understand what's going on here and understand that why is Harry a bad detective, or am I just an idiot for not understanding how these pieces come together? And like him, I wasn't seeing the clues right in front of me at first. This is not, I think this is a pretty plot heavy, complicated movie. You can't watch this. This is not an easy breezy watch, but I love the analogies of the metaphor of the chessboard in this, and I didn't get it right away. But Harry is bouncing back and forth between Los Angeles and Florida. And I think the country, or the United States, is the chessboard. Number one, it's how I'm trying to interpret this. And the chess pieces are the crisscrossing across the country like a messy, highly strategic chess game. This film was originally titled Dark Tower, another chess reference. Harry is a former football player. And I was really thinking to myself, why is that important for this movie? And I still don't really understand why, but also football is often compared to as a chess game as well. It's like the closely related to a chess match of all the sports, professional sports. So I don't know if you guys have put any thought into that, but I love all these chess analogies. And of course there's the story that he tells about some chess match in 1929, how there's the guy that lost the match didn't see the moves right in front of him, which is exactly what he is going through.
And also I think onto that point, when he makes that reference to the chess match and not seeing the clues right in front of him, he is in a situation at that very moment in Florida where he's being played, where she's come to his bedroom to divert him from knowing that the other guy is going back out to the crash site where the plane went. Just a one point on the director. It's really interesting how you said upon the first viewing, Nathan, you found it more confusing. I don't know if it's Arthur Penn's style. I wouldn't say this film was easier for me to follow, but there's something about the focus and the pacing of the movie that, even though I did not understand a lot immediately, I felt guided in the sense that that I was aware of, we're here, we're going here. Where in a movie like Angel Heart, which I know is a different beast altogether, personally, I felt that confusion that you're talking about on Angel Heart, where in that film, I got the references, but I felt lost. This film, every moment I was losing not focus, but thinking to myself, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. A line in the script would immediately come to the surface that would explain something to me, as if the screenplay knew where the audience was. And she would say, oh, well, this is my so-and-so stepfather. Or just as I felt as if I was going underwater, there'd be a clarification point, which to me was really enjoyable because I like film noir, but I like having at least a little bit of orientation, where sometimes in some of these films, it is so labyrinthian and I get so lost that I actually feel removed. Whereas this movie, I was always invested because I found the scenes atmospheric and there was mystery happening. And I just felt as a connectivity to the movie that I don't sometimes in this genre.
And I'll just say quickly that I think the only reason why is because I love the mystery. There are so many characters in this movie.
Yes.
There's an unusually high amount of characters that I have to keep track of. Probably maybe too many. These Joey Zeigler, Marty Heller, Marv Ellman, like I forgot who these names were. And then like, do I go back and rewind it and remember who these were? Because I forgot, because they're not huge parts of the movie, but they play critical pieces of this mystery that I was like, I don't remember who was who. And I was like, yeah.
Me too. Names sometimes go, they don't come to me naturally. In fact, if this was a modern film and they remade this now, I guarantee you when Gene Hackman's character said, you're saying so-and-so did this, it would cut to a flash frame of that character.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes.
But what were you going to say?
Yeah, there are so many characters in this movie, but Sam, I felt the same exact way. And in a way, this movie feels more character driven than plot driven. There's a lot of plot machinations and a lot of things happening, but it's only because of who these characters are that we're even going to the next step. Mm-hmm. There's no investigation that's really leading to the next point in the plot. It's just character motivation. So we have to learn and spend a lot of time with all of these characters, even sort of like the James Woods character. There's so many characters that we spend way more time with than we probably would in a modern movie. And this movie reminded me of Inherent Vice in that way. There's a lot happening, but it's sort of like a dream. It just kind of has to wash over you and you're just sort of following this person around and it will sort of, that will be revealed. That's the mystery. You're learning it sort of as Gene Hackman's learning it. And that underwater feeling was so present for me through this movie. That feeling of being disoriented, like I felt in Inherent Vice. And it was pleasant because it felt very intentional.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think for me, when I think of this movie, that midsection in Florida where he's just spending time down there and spending time with them and like drinking a little bit and just sort of that to me seems like the heart and soul and theme of the movie, from which the beginning and the end spring out like branches. Yes. That's the soul of the film. I think that's what it's about. And you think you're having these deep character moments, and then you find out later he is being deceived in the very moment that's the heart of the film. So I thought that was really good.
Yes. I thought of you with all the traveling. I was like, I bet you Sam really likes it.
On a humorous note, this movie just makes me want to go to the Yucatan. I just want to go. I just want to take a boat and go there and not necessarily do the drug smuggling thing, because that would not be good for my career. But the other stuff looks great. I mean, it would be if I didn't get caught, but I can't. I don't think I'm I don't think
You
I'm
don't blend.
smooth enough to not be caught. No, I think I'd stick
don't
out.
blend.
Yes. No.
So there's a little bit about the plot of this. There's so Melanie Griffith in this. I think this is her first acting role potentially. This was shot in. We haven't talked about this yet. This was shot in 1973.
Yeah, they had to hold it because she's 16.
There's a couple different stories here. I think though she was 16 years old. There's some graphic nudity in this for a 16-year-old, but there's a couple stories here that they shot her nude scenes a year later or a couple years later when she was 17. But you know what? This is 1970 something.
Yeah, I don't think
I
that's
don't know
true.
what I believe here. But the funny thing is they wait 2 years to release this because they wanted to release it when she was 18. Like that really matters.
Yeah, like you filmed her when she was 16, but you release it when she was 18.
It's a little awkward, a little uncomfortable.
Sure. I will say I love that there was no love interest between Gene Hackman and Deli. That made me feel much better.
Yes.
I love the I feel so bad.
Thank God for that, by the way. It would have been creepy. Yeah.
The Deli character, and I mean, he is really the only one in this movie that treats her like a 16-year-old, like a child, because she is just worked over by the men in her life. It is really tragic. The relationship she has with her stepfather. Oh my God. And when we find out again, hey, by the way, how many weeks in a row is this where we get incest?
4. This is 4 weeks in a row. Chris, do you think there's a problem in Hollywood? Like, what's going on?
There is a line of dialogue. There's a scene where Harry and Tom are around the dock and he is like, I want her out of here. Like, I've done some foolish things. I actually captured this audio because this says it all.
Harry, you're a pretty straight guy, and I'm going to tell you, I want that kid the hell out of here. You see, I got pretty foolish with her, and well, you've seen her. God, there ought to be a law.
There is.
There is.
It's so funny because when I was watching the movie and he said there ought to be a law, at the same time Gene Hackman said there is, I went, there is, really loudly to my screen. I talked to the screen. What the hell, man? You don't know that?
But I wonder in 1975 if people were at the theater, did the whole audience collectively say there is?
There is. It just really underscores what a bad guy this guy is.
But here's the thing.
And what a bad person the mother like.
Not just the mom, but what do you guys think about the Paula character? Because she is standing by during this whole thing, and yet Harry is kind of infatuated by her as well. And Paul is, my boyfriend is stooping the 16-year-old, you know? So why is Harry, but Harry sees this going on. He wants to get her out of there, but yet he is kind of like, I'm in no rush. You know, I feel like this is bad things going on in the Keys. And he sees that Paul is like, no, whatever. And he is still okay with sleeping with Paula. And I was like, I mean, so this is the one character flaw. No, he has a lot of character flaws, but I was just kind of really taken back by that. He seems to have the moral compass to know that is wrong, but he is still going to be like, I'm still going to sleep with this woman that thinks this is okay.
My feelings on that, and I've only seen the movie twice, once several years ago, and then again last night. But I don't necessarily think when he was watching the situation unfold in the Florida Keys, I don't necessarily think he thought, this is okay, I'm going to hang around a little bit. I think he realized that there was dangerous, like loaded powder kegs all around him. And he thought, I better play this slowly because this could explode in my face. So I don't necessarily think he's a terrible detective. I think his intuition is really on the money. I think his emotion gets in the way of his logic. And when it came to sleeping with Paula, I don't necessarily think he thought it was okay. I think they had had several drinks and he was lying there and maybe he was feeling isolated and it just kind of happened. And he sort of just, well, all right, you know?
Yeah. I agree, Sam. And I think there's something about this character who likes women who are kind of stronger characters, you know, who come on a little strong. And, you know, and and we know all this background about his marital troubles, right? So we know that he's feeling really alone. We know he's feeling really desperate. He's in a bad place. And I think he's just looking for a little hope, a little bit of a good time. And I think he thinks he sees something in Paula that's a little bit, maybe I can save her, you know?
Yes, he sees in her, first of all, he thinks her enigmatic comments are kind of interesting when she's talking about Kennedy, even though that's intended as you see that she's sort of a diversion. I also think because he's mad at Ellen, played by Susan Clark, there's the slightest ego boost of sort of, well, another woman understands me in my vulnerable moment because I'm really upset with my wife and I'm hurt. So he kind of is like letting it play a little bit.
So Paula might be somewhat redeemable. What do you think of her illegal dolphin aquarium in the backyard?
Obviously, I'm against that.
Yeah,
Obviously.
Okay.
Cannot abide. That's some real Florida. No, don't do. If you're listening at home and you're like, wow, that dolphin pen looks like a great idea. No, it doesn't. Shut up. No, it doesn't. It looks like a bad idea. Yeah. Can we go through, not to backtrack us too much, but, you know, we're talking so much about the main players here. Can we go back to the James Woods characters and some of these characters that cause him some conflict? Because that's a different side of him that I feel like is a little more instigated. So when he starts on his investigation, he meets up with this young kid played by James Woods, who's giving a great performance despite being one of the worst. But his performance is pretty good, unfortunately. But, you know, they're both coming in, I think, desperate for some kind of control. They just really want, and Hackman especially just wants to feel some control here. What do you two think of their interactions?
I think they share more similarities between themselves than they'd like to admit. And I think that with their interactions, from an entertaining perspective, I found wildly enjoyable when Gene Hackman would lose his cool in this film, when he would blow his top, just because he was such an engaging character. And I didn't necessarily relate to everything about him, but when he's talking to James Woods and he gets angry with him and he doesn't like James Woods' answer and he just pushes him out from underneath the car.
So funny.
I was thinking, well, that's one way to do it, you know.
It's amazing.
I agree 100%, Sam. And I was telling you offline, B, that I as much as I agree that James Woods is a terrible human being, I miss what he brings to these roles.
Very kinetic.
And kinetic, and he could snap at any moment. And I think having Gene Hackman at the peak of his powers and James Woods is dangerous to have in a scene for too long, because something is going to happen.
Yeah, two pieces of flint.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there are other films where they've been in together. I feel like something like in the mid late 80s, they probably were like a buddy cop movie with both of them. I would hope that exists.
There's, it's just, it signals this point in the movie where we start to see Gene really lose his cool before he goes to Florida. You know, like that confrontation with his wife, that's hard. He's putting glass in the garbage disposal. It's not going well. We see him really worked up before he goes down there, which I just think colors the interactions that he's having, but also might be why he's really not noticing the wool being pulled over his eyes. And then when Deli's returned, when she goes back home, that fight that happens next to him, for me, was one of the toughest parts of the movie to watch. When they're in the driveway and that family starts that altercation and he hears it and decides to leave.
It's like
yes,
but it's like he just, lit a match and threw it in the kerosene and like, I'm out, and it's, he doesn't understand the ramifications of what he's done.
No, he had good intentions, right? But then it forces him to miss another key piece of evidence, right? Because he gets that note of that voicemail and he doesn't listen to it through at the end because he's emotional. But like Sam, like you were saying, he just put his guard up and
I hear you. I was really surprised that I don't know if that message got cut off on his machine, but the way that was set up, I thought that when he was reviewing the footage of her car crash later, that all of a sudden he would remember the message and there would be a scene where he goes back to his house and replays it. And we didn't get that. And that was surprising to me because that felt like a plant and it was fine that it wasn't paid off, but I was surprised that it wasn't paid off because usually in screenplays, when you plant something, you pay it off somewhere, And
I also thought that when he goes to the screening room with was it Joey Ziegler, and he's watching that footage and they play like reel 16, that there was going to be some major piece of evidence in there that was gonna be like an aha moment. The only thing we get out of that is that we learned that Quentin was on the film set. And I don't even know if that really is like a major, is that a major plot piece of this mystery? Because I feel like he's been involved in this all along. I don't feel like there was a satisfactory moment in that scene where he learned something big. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I thought it was supposed to be, and I was looking for it, but nothing quite revealed itself.
It was just kind of sad seeing that third reel where you see a little bit more of the accident.
The action. I think this is back to it being turning the genre on its head a little bit. Like it's not what is that phrase that gets the orgy of evidence that gets thrown around? Like it's not, it's more real. It's 70s. It's post Watergate. It's gritty. It's not, it's interesting, but
you know what? Stop right there for 1 second. So you mentioned, we haven't mentioned, post, Watergate, or even post Vietnam, because I think that is definitely a huge thing hanging over this movie, but prior to this, like in the 60s, and you had, your heroes were, Marlon Brando, Cary Grant, Burt Lancaster, Rock Hudson, Tony Curtis, people like that. They were very conventionally handsome, and the heroes were.
No disrespect to Gene Hackman, hot as hell in this movie.
Gene Hackman is a disheveled looking person, unpolished appearance. By the way, he is rocking a great mustache, and if we ever do a top 5 mustaches, we should do this sometime. I think
also I hear that. I think also the product of its time, where it's not necessarily a theme in the movie that's hit over your head, i.e. this is Vietnam, Watergate. I think that's just an automatic factor in the background going on, which is simply saying these are characters that are struggling. They're not heroes. They're not all anti-heroes, because Gene Hackman is not a bad man, but they're kind of just struggling their way through life and bumbling our
country is so disillusioned at this time. So I think it's just what our world is feeling right now to create characters, this post-Vietnam, post-Watergate era. But characters were mirroring that world that was feeling that, looking like that. They were anti-heroes, they were rebels and loners. So this is par for the course.
And that's spreading across genres, right?
Spreading across genres, and in a good way, not necessarily a bad way. I tend to, just my personal choices, I like movies in general where you come out of the theater, you feel uplifted and hopeful, and I'm going to try my best at life, and I'm going to attack my career, and things. This was a film where it makes me look inward a little bit. I went on a little walk after this movie. I wouldn't say I was depressed, but it was more kind of along the lines of, I'm a good person, but am I no better than Gene Hackman? His character is very different than me, but it just makes you look inward, and you look at the kind of rough edges of your own life, and you think this is the kind of movie where you think, are we just all bumbling along and not really doing the best job? And I would not lessen my rating for the film, but it's that feeling of that introspective kind of downer feeling is not necessarily my favorite feeling to feel, but that in no way would shape my judgment because it's a quality movie.
You're dovetailing into the end so perfectly, because I think you're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll go with the end.
The end of this movie, whew, what a bummer. It's when he sort of figures it out, and he says, oh, I've got to get back down to Florida, and is confronting everyone down. I mean, I don't know. It was pretty shocking for me. And the ending happened so much faster than the rest of the movie.
And talk about him thinking emotionally and not thinking it through. Going into that situation in Florida, when he finally pulled out his gun, I thought to myself, at least you thought it through to at least have a weapon with you like a detective, because you are walking into an explosive situation without backup, without telling anyone. What are you doing, man?
And like jumps on the boat. He's let's go. And for it to be revealed to him really in the last 10 minutes, I mean, just on that boat and watching him understand the other character's motivations for the first time. Like, no, it was just this piece of art. It was just this deal that we had made. No, it's not drugs. No, it's not what you found. I mean, there's some chilling scenes in this movie. They all happen on the water except for the family fight. We didn't really talk about the submerged plane and just how creepy and terrifying that is. But then to revisit what I thought was one of the scariest parts, like genuinely scary parts of the film, where the visuals are just so striking, and to have that be the moment.
No, absolutely. I did not hate Paula. I know she was involved in some really
not at all.
So
she's very charming.
She's very charming. And her death was traumatic for me because I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm aware that crime doesn't pay, but Jesus,
Yeah. I mean, this is a movie where no one's really all good and no one's really all bad, and there's just a lot of people in this movie kind of doing the best they can. Paul is one of them, and she's just in with this guy. But revisiting these visuals and having that be the moment where we learn that Paul has really duped him in a really sinister and malicious way, and really with malintent, which is something that Harry Mosby really doesn't have. He's operating with good intent and a good moral compass. He's just not always the sharpest when he does it.
I will say too, when I went on, I checked it on Google at the very, very end, because I was not sure if he was bleeding out or dying on the boat. Gene Hackman, I'm talking about, but according to the internet, it said no, he did not die. I got the impression that he was going to make it, and then he's turning the boat around to the harbor. But
I think it's
he was shot near
ambiguous.
ephemeral. It's ambiguous. Yeah, that's.
But I like that. I like that. But before we get to that very final shot there, I think it needs to. We haven't talked about the plane as well is being flown by Joey Ziegler, who is is the villain. He's kind of painted as like the big bad, but he really isn't, because it's a bit, if you really think about it, it's kind of underwhelming, also misleading. First of all, Joey, actually, I didn't even suspect for a little while. And honestly, I don't even know. First of all, I don't know how he's piloting that plane in a body cast, but that's not important. But the thing is, what I think is the major takeaway from this, I think this is important. I think we're all saying the same thing here. I think it's important not to lose sight that Joey isn't necessarily the big bad here. I'm not sure I don't even know if he intentionally, I don't know if he intentionally killed Deli either. I don't know if that's really even clear. It seems very contrived.
It felt quite unclear to me. Yeah.
Stage a car accident that he's involved in. But the main takeaway from this type of movie is that evil is everywhere. And all people are shit. It's all about the moral decay and the selfishness and everyone involved. Every character is driven by self-interest, deceit, betrayal, creating an environment where no one is to be trusted. And Ziegler may be just part of the problem, but he's just a cog in the wheel of this machine. And Ziegler, dies in the end of this, but it doesn't really matter. Harry hasn't solved anything in this. And I think at the end, when you see him potentially dying, or we don't really know, he's just circling in a boat. And it's the perfect metaphor for how this movie, for where he's ended up in this movie. He is just going in circles in the open ocean,
circling the drain.
Nowhere. Circling the drain. Yeah. Yeah. And as I distance myself from this movie, thinking about that, I really get goosebumps thinking about that, how smart this movie is. At first, it seems such a dissatisfying ending, but it is a profound statement. It really is.
I mean, to bring it back to your chess and football, nobody's winning. One side is just losing more slowly than the other.
I love that.
The plane crash, when Ziegler crashes his plane into the boat, I saw that clip several years ago, and it was based off that clip that made me get the Blu-ray and watch the movie, because something about it, I just thought to myself, whoa, what's this film? This looks interesting. Yeah.
And Ziegler did it by accident too, right? Yeah. It was just like he just did a dope move, killing himself pretty much. Nothing.
Yeah, because he flew one-armed.
Yeah, I was like, it's just
I thought he was trying to kill Paula on purpose, or that's what I.
Oh, I think so. I'm talking about Deli. I don't even know if the.
Oh, Deli. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think it's unclear.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, there's a lot. I feel like there's just so much in this movie. I mean, if you're listening to this and you want to really go through the plot and all these things, I think you'll be wonderfully surprised when you watch this movie for the ways in which things unfold.
I think this really is a good movie. I think you also have to be in the mood for a film noir and be wanting that type of atmosphere, because I ultimately have a very optimistic view of humanity, in spite of a cynical side that I have. I believe in altruism. I think that we're eventually going to go to space. I think we're going to solve problems. I think we're going to be an interplanetary species. So sometimes these movies of people floundering around in darkness go against the grain of who I am, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it as really high quality cinema.
Yeah, absolutely. That would make more sense.
By the way, I meant to get this in earlier, but a brief comment about Bruce Surtees' DP work. I thought it was good, but there was no cinematography in this movie that I thought that was anything incredibly spectacular, like some film.
I made a note about that. I was like, it's really very, what do you call it? Like just sort of passive. It's just sort of watching what's happening unfold, but I wouldn't say it's really telling a story.
Right. It certainly wasn't bad. It was fine, but it's not, drawing a blank. The Richard Gere 1980 movie
American Gigolo.
That's a movie where every single shot is a cinematographer, masterpiece. That's a photography movie right there. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say for a noir, this is not a very stylized movie, but it's also very bright. It's really a daytime noir.
It's a daytime movie, and I didn't necessarily mind that it wasn't stylized. I just definitely noticed that compared to Angel Heart the other week, that is like Style City.
Yes. I had the same thought. Should we do our ratings?
Well, we're going to take a break for a moment. We'll come back and do our ratings.
Awesome. Pretty heavy?
Whoa. About 400 pounds.
Pretty heavy.
George Sampson, Granada. Mr. Florida, 1964.
Ball crew.
You know Florida?
Yeah. They got tough cops here. Small, but tough. We're getting up a football game against the guards. Wondered if maybe you and some of your buddies here would like to join in on the fun.
With the guards?
Uh-huh.
Sure, I'd like that.
Sign him up. I'm way ahead of you. See you around.
Look forward to it.
It's not The Longest Yard, is it?
It is The Longest Yard.
It is. Oh, wow.
Yeah. You got any tie-in to our movie this week?
Yeah. Gene Hackman.
Not Gene Hackman.
No. Oh, I'm thinking of a different one.
Burt Reynolds.
Burt.
Mustache. Are you thinking of Amazing Mustache?
Well, he doesn't have a mustache in the movie, but that is a great tie-in, but former football player.
Oh.
So, yeah. Thank you to everyone who tuned into our podcast. If you're enjoying it, please hit the subscribe button to get new episodes in your feed every week. We don't have a budget for paid advertising, so we rely on you, our listeners, to help us spread the word. The best way to support us is by sharing our podcast with friends or posting about it on social media. You can find us at backtotheframerate.com and follow us at Back to the Frame Rate on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. Lastly, we'd be incredibly grateful if you left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We thank you for your support. Okay, it is time for our final thoughts and the verdict on whether Night Moves is going to be saved or purged into the fiery apocalypse. How shall we begin?
Dun, dun.
Sam, you haven't gone first in a while. Give us your final thoughts and your rating and your decision on Night Moves.
So my final thoughts on Night Moves are, I enjoy the movie. I think it's a product of its time in a good way. I don't think it reinvents the wheel in any sense of the word. I solidly enjoy this film. It's the type of film that were I flipping through channels and were it to come on television, the remote would stop and I would watch the rest of it. I solidly enjoy the movie. I don't love it, but my lack of love for it has nothing to do with the movie itself. It's just more of my personal taste. I think the movie is very good and very well made. So my final review, I was going to give it a 3, but based on this discussion, I'm giving it a 3.5 because I feel that the character depth is really good in it. I personally would not put it into the vault, but I do not feel particularly strongly about that. So if it made it into the vault, I would feel welcome towards it. So good movie all around, solid filmmaking, great Gene Hackman performance per usual.
Okay. B, you or me?
I'll go.
Okay.
Sure. I really did love this. If you couldn't tell from my gushing reviews, and it stayed with me and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I thought the visuals, not always inventive, not always stylized, but what they decided to show was really stunning and striking. I think the characters are so fleshed out and really feel lived in and breathed in. And I think it is a product of its time, and it comes at such an interesting time in the context of sort of the pantheon of this genre. For me, this is 4.5, and I'm going to watch it again. So yeah, put it in the vault.
Cool. So, want to hear a funny story before I give my review? I logged this into.
So I was driving this Jeep and it exploded.
That's next week. I logged this movie into Letterboxd earlier this morning, and you know what it's told me? I've seen this movie before.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was like, and not only have I seen this before, I saw this in 2017.
Oh my God.
Not like 20 years ago, or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, how can that be? I recall nothing about this movie. And I know I'm getting old. I'm not that old. But this is the second time in the last year I have watched a movie from start to finish and had absolutely no recollection of it.
What was the other movie?
Born into Brothels, the documentary.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Which is pretty memorable.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel any better, I saw Night Moves before in around 2016, 2017. I remembered I saw it. I barely remembered the movies except images. Like,
you don't understand. It's not like I know I've seen it, I don't remember it. I'm telling you, if you asked me like 5 days ago, have you ever seen Night Moves? No, I've never seen it. I've never heard of it. Yet I watched it, logged a rating for it, which I actually don't remember offhand. And prior to Letterboxd, I actually had a manual way of recording these things, like I'm using Google Drive or something like that. I watched this on September 29th, 2017. All right. Not that long ago. Like
it was before the pandemic. It was
in my lifetime. In my lifetime, I watched this. And I remembered nothing. You would think that with 7 years later, I'd be watching. It's like, oh, I remember the scene or that scene.
The plane. Yeah.
Something. And I remember nothing. So maybe I watched this like half awake, or I was editing a podcast at the same time. Who knows?
I mean,
I don't know.
Not to bring it up, but there's certain herbal remedies that affect the memory. I don't know if it
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so I want to say, first of all, Sam, I want to thank you for introducing me to this movie but I can't, because I've seen this before, but I never would have watched this and really paid this close attention to it if you hadn't picked this for this retrospective. So I'm really, really glad I watched this and paid attention to it apparently this time, because this was a wild ride. Not an easy watch at all. If you're looking for an easy breezy Sunday afternoon mystery, then I don't recommend this movie.
Watch noir.
It's one of the most disenfranchising films I've seen in a long time. But like we've said, it's a product of its era, that being, post-Vietnam, post-Watergate, when it was just in America's DNA to be skeptical of its institutions and its leaders. There is nobody in this film that I feel is heroic. Everyone is shades of gray or much worse. I've seen a lot of Gene Hackman performances, not all of them, a decent amount of them. And this film showed me a side of him I don't think I've seen before. And I got to say, this is one of, if not the best pure acting performance I think I've ever seen him do. I think he's incredible in this movie. And maybe it's because he's balancing the tough guy persona, but underneath it, there's so much vulnerability to it. And it comes through with his interactions with the female actresses in this movie. The supporting cast, I think, is equally solid. I can't say enough about the great things with Susan Clark, Jennifer Warren, and Janet Ward. The characters are pulling the strings. These characters are pulling the strings of the story. And I love that each one of these women kind of represents a different facet of Harry's personality also. And I think, lastly, I think this story, the mystery on paper is good, or I should maybe rephrase and say, I'm guessing the original, this was a novel as well. I don't think we mentioned that, but it probably had more detail and some deeper character development, which would have probably held the story together maybe better. Because in this movie adaptation, I still think there's a lot of plot and a lot of characters and a lot of minor characters that I don't think 2 hours was enough to tell this story. If we talked about if this was done today, this would probably be an 8-episode miniseries. And I'd be all over that. What hurts this film, I think, a little bit is that it is so goddamn bleak. Also, it is a hard watch. And I know this was par for the course in the 70s, but we're just bludgeoned over the head with themes of infidelity and statutory rape and murder, incest, corruption, and the list goes on and on. It's a tough watch, but I 100% recommend it. My rating is 4 stars because it is just an incredibly well-made film. I think it's one of the best films of the 70s of this genre. And I say put it in the vault, because I was highly impressed with this movie, seeing it for a second and third time apparently.
Yeah, it made it in. I'm so excited. I love this.
Yeah. So it is in.
Woo!
Fantastic.
Amazing.
There you have it. All right. We are going to go to our next segment in our
I'm very
show
curious
tonight.
about this.
We are going to do our Try Host Wizard tournament, and I'm going to explain the rules in just a moment.
The dub set champion is
Samuel the Horcrux Connoisseur Cole.
the champion for both battles.
Brianna the Bludger Breaker Butterworth.
The Hogwarts champion.
Nathan Nasty Nimbus Shaw.
All right.
Oh, that means so much to me. I've been on a Harry Potter kick recently, so that just brought joy to my heart and counteracted the drugs in the Yucatan and crashed planes and dead people. Harry Potter and magic.
Sam, I watched the first 3 a few weeks ago.
God, I love it. God, I love those movies.
Good.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, so I'm going to try to explain the rules here. This and
for listeners, we don't know them either.
Nope, this is a surprise.
Only
and
does.
Here's what we're going to do, and I'm terrible at explaining rules. We're going to. It's basically a Rotten Tomatoes game, and here's what we're going to do. Each one of us is going to draft 5 Gene Hackman movies.
Easy.
But we can only draft movies from a certain decade.
No.
So yes, no. But here's where it gets interesting. So each one of us can only draft movies from one particular decade. So B, you may end up with the 70s. Sam, you may end up with the 80s. I may end up with the 90s.
Okay.
We're going to find that out in a moment. But we're only going to these 5 movies that we draft.
Mm-hmm.
The winner is going to be determined. We want to draft the movies that are going to have the highest Rotten Tomatoes score.
Easy.
We add these 5 movies up.
Easy. I'm ready to take my gauntlet. Let's do it.
All right. He had highly rated movies in all 3 of these decades.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to draft 5 movies.
Okay.
So here's the thing. We have to determine who is responsible for the 70s, in the 80s, and the 90s. This is why I asked you guys not to go on Rotten Tomatoes to look up Gene Hackman movies this week. I have not looked either, so I'm going in blind as well. So what I would say is pull up a Gene Hackman filmography on IMDb would probably be the best place to do it. Or on Wikipedia might be even better because it shows no ratings for movies that we have no idea is what I would recommend you do. I'll do that too. And we're going to randomly pick out who's going to get what decade. Okay. Are these rules clear?
Yes.
Okay. Gene Hackman films. And I'm in Wikipedia. This is probably the best place to go. All right. 70s, 80s, 90s. All right. So we are going to do it this way. We're going to auction off the 70s is what we're going to do. It's probably the easiest way to do this. We're going to do a random number generator to make it fair.
Okay.
1 to 20. I can always edit this out if I need to. All right. Sam, I am going to pick a number for this right here from 1 to 20.
13.
13. B, pick a number.
14.
All right. I'll pick 1. And the number is 15.
Oh, fuck me.
So B, you have
I get the 70s.
You get the 70s.
Okay.
All right.
And we're going to see which decade has the highest Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah, this might not be a fair game, but it's what we're doing. So for the Sam, it's down to me and Sam for the 80s and 90s. Sam, pick a number between 1 and 20.
6.
6, I'll take, 10. It is 4. You get the 80s.
Oh, lucky.
It's my least favorite one.
Okay.
I wanted the 90s so badly. I hope you can't lie.
I mean, 90s Gene Hackman, The Birdcage, The Replacements.
Crimson Tide.
Crimson Tide, Enemy of the State.
Well, it is what it is.
I also feel like 90s is probably when people run tomatoes.
He kind of made a reemergence. So, okay. So we're just going to, we'll rotate through this in decade order. B, what's your first pick for the 70s, Gene Hackman?
The French Connection.
All right. Can't go wrong there. Oh, by the way, do you want to do, this is important. Do you want to do tomato rating or popcorn rating?
Tomato.
Okay.
Sorry, did you have a different opinion, Sam?
No.
Tomato. Okay. Tomato rating. Okay. Sam, what is your first 80s?
Mississippi Burning.
Classic.
So 90s. I have to go Unforgiven.
Okay.
All right. Our first round is done. We have French Connection, Mississippi. We'll add these up after. Mississippi Burning, and mine from the 90s is Unforgiven. I'm feeling good already. All right. B, your second pick.
I have a risky strategic choice already for number 2. Have any of you seen I Never Sang for My Father?
No.
It's an incredible performance. I think everyone who's seen it loves it. I just don't know how many people have seen it, but that's not what the game is. So I'm going to hope that a proud few have seen it and loved it because it's phenomenal.
And what year did that come out? I see it there, 1970. Did it even register in Rotten Tomatoes? That's the other thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out.
Okay. You don't want to score 0. But okay.
Well, I'm playing. Listen, I'm rolling the dice.
Oh.
I have faith in this performance because, it's great.
All right.
Risk is part of the game if you want to sit in that chair. Yeah. James T. Kirk.
Oh, my God.
Sam, what is your number 2 pick for the 1980s Gene Hackman?
The 1981 film Reds, and Gene Hackman has a tiny role in it, but he's still in it.
All right.
Nice.
My number 2 pick for the 90s Gene Hackman. It's going to be...
Get Shorty.
Well, I'm looking at that. I am going to do Get Shorty.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Easily influenced, I see. Okay.
Our third round, B, 1970s Gene Hackman. What is your third pick?
Young Frankenstein.
Rest in peace, Terry Garr.
Yeah. You guys know how much I love Mel Brooks.
Your third pick, 1980s Gene Hackman. You got to pick a winner here.
The 1986 film Hoosiers. Yeah.
Hoosiers?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I've never seen it.
It's good.
Okay.
It's good. Gene Hackman did not like being in it, though, apparently, but
oh shit!
Yelled at the director a lot. Yeah, he had a terrible time on that film. Then he got into it, or so I've heard. But
I'm gonna go with there's a lot of good ones here. I guess I will go with Crimson Tide from 1995.
Yeah, why not?
Probably universally enjoyed by critics.
Yeah.
Okay, we are on to our fourth round. B, 1970s Gene Hackman. We each have 2 picks left.
It's a bird. It's a plane. Superman.
You gonna go with Superman 2? Just to have them both?
I am.
I don't know if that'll work for you.
It's cheating a little bit because footage was reused, but he's still in the movie. So Superman 2. Yeah.
Yes. I am so happy.
Battle of the Superman.
Oh, it's too bad Superman 4: The Quest for Peace didn't come out. in the 90s. You could have grabbed that, Sam, you know?
Yeah, but that would have sunk the... I not even looking at... I haven't looked at Rotten Tomatoes, but I know that movie is... Woo!
I haven't looked either. I don't know. I'm just poking around Wikipedia a little bit to make sure I have these movies right. I'm trying to see the posters.
I think I know what my last two picks are going to be.
Must be nice.
I think I'm going to go with The Firm.
I've never even heard of that movie.
Tom Cruise? John Grisham?
No idea.
No?
Oh my God. You'd actually like that movie.
Would I?
Yeah.
I'll put it on the list. I'm going to get me a little notepad like you have. Yeah.
Really good. Dave Grusin soundtrack, piano music, and directed by Sidney Pollack, actually.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
We are down to our last picks. Round 5. B, what is your final pick? 1970s Gene Hackman.
I'm so torn because I just don't know what the tomato meter, I just don't know. But I'm going to go with my heart, my little neo-noir heart right now, and go for The Conversation. I don't know, though.
I don't think you can go wrong with that.
Well, I love it, but I don't know. Do the tomatoes love it? Are there enough tomatoes who loved it? I don't know. I might not know much about this website.
Sam, what have you got for your final pick, 1980s Gene Hackman?
For my final pick, 1980s Gene Hackman, I'm going to go with 1987's No Way Out, starring Gene Hackman and Kevin Costner. I've seen that film. I enjoy that movie. Wacky ending, but I enjoy it.
Man, what a great career Gene Hackman's had.
Absolutely.
Man,
fucking rules.
I got to pick a winner here. Because
I feel like I know it. I know it's got to be.
You're going to win this, B, because the 70s he ruled.
Yeah, he did.
I
didn't realize how. I grew up on 90s Gene Hackman and then got interested in movies. So
to quote the greatest Gene Hackman line of all time, I had to blow up a building because you made a phone call. Enemy of the state.
I'm going to go with The Birdcage.
Yep. That's the one I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to
quote another Gene Hackman movie. No, nobody's winning. Nobody's winning.
All right, here we go. Can we all be responsible for going onto Rotten Tomatoes and adding up our scores?
I guess. The French Connection is coming in frickin' strong, everybody. That was an excellent start. We have 96.
Okay. Well, we'll reveal all of our scores one at a time here.
Yeah, but I had to say that because that's
you had to say that.
So you'll be fine.
Oh, I blew on one of these. I blew on one of these.
You guys, I Never Sang for My Father has 10 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and its tomato meter is 100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think you won this.
So
let's go in order here. You picked The French Connection with your first film. What was the Rotten Tomatoes score on that?
96.
96, strong start.
Mm-hmm.
And your next, we'll go by host order here. I Never Sang to My Father. You said it was 100%.
I'm not even lying. You can look it up.
I believe you. Okay. Young Frankenstein.
Yes. Young Frankenstein, strong at 95.
95. Oh, you've got this.
Not surprising. It's a great movie. Superman came in at 93.
93. And The Conversation. That's got to be like high 90s.
Yeah, 93.
93?
Yeah.
Okay. Sam, I think we're done. What was Mississippi Burning?
79.
79.
Really? It's a tough watch.
How about Reds?
90.
Oh, sorry. B, what was your total score, by the way? Sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I thought, okay. I'll tell you in a minute after we all do this.
Okay. Reds was what score, Sam?
Reds was 90.
90. All right, good score. Hoosiers?
91.
91. Superman 2?
83.
That's pretty good.
83. And No Way Out?
92.
Wow, that's high. So my score is Unforgiven, 96. Get Shorty, 89. Crimson Tide, 89. The Firm, 76. Lowest score of all of them here. Brutal. Sank me. In the Birdcage, 84. My total score, 434 points.
My total score, let me just hold on. I'm just going to check the math on this because I'm
sure.
It's so you go B, yeah.
Sure. My total score was 477, averaging out to 95.4.
Damn you.
My total score was 435. By 1 point.
You beat me by 1?
What do I win? That's pretty good. I'll take
bragging rights, and you can have my car.
Perfect.
Yeah. By the way, our movie tonight, Night Moves, had an 84.
I strategically didn't pick it because I was like, I don't think it's going to be that high. It's not for everyone.
Higher than I thought it was going to be. Sam, it's a good thing you did not pick Full Moon and Blue Water from 1988.
Well, now you all know that you really need to watch it. I Never Sang to My Father.
Apparently, it's
100%
the best Gene Hackman movie
according
ever.
to these 10 people.
There's no beating B in this. You are our winner. Woo! I wish I had failed, but
this would be the perfect time for that John Malkovich audio. Woo!
Woo!
Which I don't have queued up.
That's okay.
I have nothing queued up.
I think I should get a Beast pick. Just a random movie.
You want to squeeze it in sometime? Okay.
Wonderful.
You can have one in 2025.
I'll hold you to it. We'll be watching Ants. Okay. Get ready.
Yay.
Or Never Sang to My Father.
We don't need to watch that for this.
Do you want to do highlights or do you want to wrap it up?
Go watch Scary Season. It's not over yet. Keep watching scary movies. You got some good slashers out right now.
Quickly.
I loved it.
We both saw Terrifier 3.
I loved it a lot.
You loved it?
You not so much?
Okay. I was okay. I mean, I'm not really into the
genre,
that kind of like horror gore. I did go out and see it because everyone's seeing it, and any $2 million movie that is going to make us do that well, and I think it's just a great story that it's possible that Terrifier 3 is going to pass Joker 2 in the domestic box office.
It's amazing. I do like Grindhouse a lot. I like Grindhouse movies. I like super gore. I like all that stuff. And I just think he's doing really, Damien Leone, doing really fun stuff with the genre.
I appreciate the practical effects in it and that they're what he's able to do. But it just comes down that it's not really my jam. But hey, it's cool. I appreciate what it is. But I will say, though, that after watching Terrifier 3, I came home and I had to put something on to counterbalance all the death and violence. So I popped in my DVD copy of Dumb and Dumber. And man, this is a movie that I did not like 30 years ago. By the way, it is celebrating its 30th anniversary in a month. From the Farley brothers. And this movie has weaved its way into my heart over the last 30 years. I've only seen it probably 3 times in my life, but it is cheap fun, but I really have a good time with it.
Is it? I don't
Great
remember.
Soundtrack too. It really does. So I kind of go back now and I've really started to enjoy some of the early Jim Carrey films that I did not like back in the day, like Cable Guy, Liar, Liar. I probably thought of myself as more of the kind of film goer these are just stupid slapstick comedies. And I
love Liar, Liar, and I do like
Liar, Liar too.
The darkness of Cable Guy, that he's just literally a creep. It's Ben Stiller amusement for me. Yeah.
Those are just the 2 things I'll just mention that I caught up with.
I did a bunch of 80s slashers and a bunch of slashers in general in honor of Terrifier, and it's been a blast. Did Prom Night. I did Friday the 13th Part 2. I did Sleepaway Camp. Just been on a total slasher tear. It's been really fun.
I had so little time. I just managed to watch Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince, Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, and that's it.
Nice.
I think that wraps it up for this week. We are going to be continuing our Noirvember 70s hard-boiled detective noir with the 1971 film Clute, starring Donald Sutherland and Jane Fonda. Film
I'm excited.
that I have never seen. B, you have not seen this? No. Sam, we will see you in a couple weeks. You have a week off.
I'll be back.
We may have a guest next week. I am unsure, but nonetheless, it will be a fun time talking about this film. Looking forward to it. I think I have old Blu-ray of this. I might kick in there, which I think has commentary on it. I'm not
Nice.
sure. I gotta dig it up. So I'm excited about this. Clue is available if you want to stream it on Hoopla. It's on the Criterion channel, or you could rent it on VOD. Okay, that is our show this week. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Special thanks to Brian Ellsworth for our show opening. On behalf of all of us, we bid you farewell from the fallout shelter. Your presence in our underground sanctuary is truly appreciated. While you can't join us, we thank you for tuning in. If you are enjoying the show, please subscribe and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite platform. For more episodes at Back to the Frame Rate, find more episodes of our show at backtotheframerate.com. I gotta rewrite this ending sometime. And follow us on our social media platforms at Back to the Frame Rate. Your support brightens our bunker. Until next time, stay with us, keep hope alive, and share our show with your friends. This is the end of our transmission. Back to the Frame Rate, signing off.
I want you to know it's over.
Well.
Bye.
Bye.